Andrew asked me to talk about economic development, and I'm so happy to see the 4 principles, including the economic redevelopment of the community. And so I've spent some time with Andrew. This has been very enjoyable. Willamette Falls, and I'm struck by the Salilo Falls analogy, which I find just tremendous. But I'm going to share some comments with you about the economic redevelopment component of what's obviously a much larger vision that you feel. And you can describe that as an incredibly hard project, if not even drifting over to the I word, impossible. And then you can describe it as incredibly easy. And it's purely a matter of perspective. In 2019, it's probably hard and nearly impossible, but when we explain it in 2037 with Brian's vision, it will be easy to see how it all came together over a mere 18 or 19 years. So it's hard and it's easy. And the key in between that is that word called endurance, which you've already demonstrated. Going through all these speeches today is an impressive performance. But there have been a lot of different meetings about this area and its potential and the falls. All of you and many more of you are dedicated to it. That's essential to it. The public side, in typical Oregon fashion, is already demonstrating success. Metro bond, inclusion of that, the design for the trail, the formation of the trust, and the establishment of the trust as a key component in making this happen are all very positive. The private side presents quite a few challenges, so we could take a moment to get the cold water thrown on the topic by talking about the private investment, because it's very, very difficult. And if you appreciate, my own estimate would be that Brian's goal of $150 million for the fundraising over that period of time, the private investment potential here is probably 8 to 10 times that in terms of what you can attract. There's a minor problem that all of that investment requires a return. So it has a different standard, but it can certainly be far greater. And this is true with a number of different crazy visions we've had around the region and the state about these public and private investment strategies. That the private side investment does have to far exceed and often is the basis for the public participation is by the private investment. So that public and private investment both have to be considered, nurtured, and created. And this is where my first principle is be willing to blur the lines between the private and the public side. You'll find that in looking at that, and maybe we have to use a different word. It doesn't sound so much of a put down. I think it's a cooperation. But the public and private side, when working together, can be enormously effective. That certainly was important in the development of the Pearl, between the development of the public investments and the commitment to those investments, but they paralleled the private investments. So there was a linkage between the two. No question for the economic development here. There are two critical things that are needed. One is a market that private investment isn't going to be made unless there's a real market for whatever it is they're investing in. Regional centers are an important concept in the Portland region and have been. I would not give them a high grade so far because I don't know that we have the organizational structures to help make the regional centers we've designated around this region effective. No question Oregon City would benefit from a far more effective regional capability of developing our regional centers that have been designated in our 2040 plan. I think it'll happen, and it'll happen soon. Others are beginning to understand this, and its importance to the future of the region. And it will certainly benefit Oregon City in this project if the momentum behind regional center developments in the region grows, and the tools necessary to make that happen grow with it. Oregon City could benefit from it. But the market is certainly there for mixed use. The property has incredible assets, and the first one is the falls. And your vision for the falls make that property enormously attractive. It has a vision behind it and a sense behind it that would call for success. Its constraint is that it already has a lot of buildings on it and a lot of other things on it, which means the upfront investment to get to the first investment that works is going to be far higher. South Waterfront was the hardest project for the city of Portland to do because the upfront infrastructure investment was so great. The city of Portland's financial base could not absorb that. And it required a special arrangement with the private developers, committing essentially to pay their taxes as if they had developed in order to make it possible to finance the infrastructure necessary to make that happen. So that's the part about blurring the lines. Jim Desmond told you about blurring the lines over the use of metro funds. That kind of commitment is the kind of commitment that's necessary that contributes to success. That vision, that understanding of the bigger picture leads you to the success. The other area of great concern is mixed use relies upon access. And access is essential to this property in order to create the level of activity that you would anticipate in your vision for the area. It deserves that level of activity. It can certainly have it, but you have to address the issue of access to the property. And that's a public responsibility with a considerable amount of involvement of the private sector. No question, the property owners are important. No matter how much vision you have for property, if the property owner isn't necessarily fully cooperative with you in terms of being as smitten with the vision as we all are, it's going to be a very hard road, because the fundamental is who owns the land really controls what happens. You can offer incentives, you can do all of that, but if there isn't the decision to go, not very much happens. So that takes tolerance, endurance, and maintenance of the vision. You've got the vision, you've got the asset and the catalyst. Then I'll give you my 3 C's. The catalyst, the commitment, and comprehensive approach are keys to making these developments work. I'm amused by the catalyst at the Pearl was actually, Greg Baldwin came up with this, creating the lagoon underneath the NATO Parkway, connecting Willamette River to the Pearl. And there was this giant lagoon, and the board, the River District Association board, looking at this, seeing all this water, they all of a sudden saw this housing as waterfront housing, and it made them very excited about it. That was the best catalyst that was never built, okay? Because the lagoon was kind of ludicrous. The river goes up and down. It's not easily controllable. So it's not, a River Place would demonstrate to you the difficulty they have with the changing levels of the water and how you create the right kind of access for the public or enjoyment for them. But the Pearl went forward with major changes in access, and the biggest change was actually the Lovejoy ramps, more than the streetcar. But those, the catalyst is a key component. The falls is a dramatic catalyst. It may or may not be enough for the development. There may be some other things. I've heard about the aerial tram connecting to Oregon City, and I'm kind of intrigued with that. There are other different symbolic projects, certainly the trail, and the way that trail is integrated into development plans could make a big difference and become a major catalyst for development. You're seeing a little bit of that as Carol works so hard on the East Bank Esplanade. And finally, property is developing and converting and respecting what was created with that Esplanade a long time ago as a catalyst. The only opponent is ODOT, because they own 6 acres right underneath the Hawthorne Bridge. And I tried to get that purchased 20 years ago for the Oregon Food Bank, and they still haven't sold it. And they bought it in the 80s, and they still sit on 6 acres. So sometimes the landowner can be your biggest problem. The commitment is necessary, and the public commitment is obviously being demonstrated. The private commitment comes in almost at a single point, because the private starts to talk themselves into something, and there's at one point where it's abundantly clear they cross over to where it's less expensive to build it than it is to stop working on it. That point is very obvious, and they have to have the confidence to make that commitment. So like Homer Williams had the Riverstone condo in front of him, and a market study said he could sell his 250 units, 30 units a year. It would take him over 8 years to sell it, which most developers would fold and not proceed. Homer had demonstrated many times that he had paid no attention to current intelligence. And he went ahead and built it, and he sold it in 6 months. And it was all by itself in the Pearl, surrounded by gravel, had one road. And so then he built the Tanner Creek next to it, and he sold that in 6 weeks. And he finally demonstrated that he actually was working on something, but he took the risks. But he took those risks with a level of confidence about the availability of the public investment behind it. And making that commitment to start it, to demonstrate a different direction, came through a very serious partnership and confidence associated with the ability to make that commitment. Then the comprehensive approach is essential. With your vision that you've got that embraces economic redevelopment in the preservation and the habitat enhancement, it clearly demonstrates the comprehensive approach to it. And the design from Snowhetta, the work that's been done, maintains that comprehensive approach. It goes deeper into the city's regulations about how to protect mixed-use development, to make sure that the results come out that fully match the concentrated activity, the multiple uses of activity, permitting all of those as part of a whole dynamic place that's being created. So those 3 C's represent key components of making it happen, and recruiting, working with the private investors so that they will be on the team and working in the same direction. Those are keys to making the development happen. You've already started the momentum, and the strategy of regularly having another success on the direction toward 2037 is a strategy that works, and demonstrating the success will increase your visibility, the knowledge of what you're doing, and increase the interest and the investment interest, whether it's public charitable contributions or private investments for return, all joining on the vision that you've already identified. I wish you the best of luck and would love to be able to help wherever I can. Thank you.